Hi guys, it's Maisie from Sholo Public Library, and we are back in the Sholo TV studio for another adult DIY. So you might be watching this right now with me, which is live on Facebook, or if you're watching it later, you could be seeing it on the Sholo Public Library Facebook page, or possibly on the City of Sholo page. You might also be watching it on Sholo TV's YouTube channel, or on Sparklight channel 56 or 1056 in HD. However you're watching, we are very happy that you're here with us today. So we are going to make something that's a little springish, but I wanted to give us a good start to the new year. We're going to be making this really pretty sun catcher, which I made again on the Cricut like we did with our project last month. And then I'll show you what the back looks like. So I used the Cricut to cut out the black outline that you see, which is just paper, and then we used tissue paper to kind of fill it in so that when you hang it on your window, the sun will shine through and it'll look really pretty. So that's what we're making today. So the things you're going to need are a hole puncher, this is just a regular circular hole punch. You'll need a pair of scissors to cut your contact paper and possibly your tissue paper. You're probably going to need a pencil and a ruler if you need to measure your contact paper or measure any of your tissue paper elements. You're going to need some kind of string to string up your sun catcher. This is a hemp cord, kind of like embroidery floss, but it's a little bit thicker. That's just green. I picked it because it kind of went with the colors on the sun catcher. Then you're also going to need, of course, your outline, which I will grab, one that I already cut out. This is the other option that I gave you guys if you came to the library and picked out a kit. So this one's more of like a Hawaiian flower, and I'll hold it up here next to this one, which is more of, I guess, like a sunflower. And then this is kind of a, what is that flower called? A hibiscus, I think is what this one is called. And then this one's more of like a sunflower. So we'll have that, and then you'll have your contact paper. You're going to need two pieces that will fit your design that are just the clear, matte, transparent contact paper. It doesn't have to be this brand. This is like the official brand because that's what we had at the library. And then you're also going to need different colored tissue paper. So I've got some that's just plain, different colors, whatever color you want. And then I've got some that's kind of glittery. Hopefully you guys can see that on camera. There's kind of like little speckly sort of things that are on it. And I thought that might be fun because when you're having it on the window, maybe some of these will kind of come through and you'll be able to see them. I haven't hung mine up like at home in the window yet, so I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. But what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you how I made the little outline with the Cricut machine. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So the library has a Cricut machine that can be used in our makerspace in the library, which right now, if you go into the library and you go to the left, it's in the reading room, or the sign on the door says reading room. That's where this kind of stuff is right now. But eventually, once we get our library expansion done, we are going to move the teen room, which is Teen-tastic, out there into the expansion, and then that whole room where the teen room is now is going to become the makerspace room. So we're going to have this and the sewing machine and the embroidery machine. We also got some new equipment for digitization that's going to be in there. So you'll be able to go in there and kind of spread out and use all this equipment once we get that room kind of going. So I've got the Cricut already hooked up, and I've got it hooked up to a laptop, which has our Cricut design space. The library has a subscription to that. So if there's something that you want to come to the library and make, you have to bring your own materials. But if you don't have a subscription to the design space, you can still go online and look at it. And then if you find something that's just for that sort of premium access, we can help you get to that when you come to the library. So I've already got the flowers saved on my projects, which is right here on the top. But if you didn't have something in mind, you could just scroll down and you can see other things that people have added. So the one that I did, I found on Pinterest, and then it was on the lady's blog. And so I clicked on it and it sent me to her subscription. So I just saved it onto her account in case I want to use it later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the project I want, which I think it says flower sun catcher. Let me get rid of this thing so you guys can see it. So it shows both of them. It shows the sunflower and it shows the hibiscus flower. So if I click customize, it's going to open it up so I can look at it some more. So I'm just going to pick one that I want to cut. So you can see them, they're both kind of on here. So here's the sunflower over here, and then there's the little hibiscus flower. Let's go ahead, since I did the sunflower first, let's do that one. So to get rid of the other one, I'm gonna click this little eyeball thing, which makes it so that it's not gonna appear. And then it's gonna cut just the sunflower one on my canvas, which should still be there. So there it is right there. So I'm gonna click make it, and it's gonna take me to the cutting part. So I'm going to cut one mat, which is this thing. This is a Cricut mat. This is the back. The front looks like this, and this is like a sticky sort of surface so that the paper will stick to it. So I've already put my paper on there. So the paper is 12 by 12, which is the whole mat, which is how big your sun catcher is going to be. The bigger, the better, because it's really going to catch a lot of light. So then I'm going to make sure our machine on here has a little dial that has different settings. So it has paper, vinyl, iron-on, light cardstock, regular cardstock, which is this, bonded fabric, and poster board. So it's set to cardstock already because that's what we did before. I've got this on my mat, and we're going to be ready to cut. So on my screen, it shows the sunflower. It says it's 12 by 12. If I wanted to change it, I just click it and I can pick from different things. It's set obviously to, this is like the smallest one, and then there's really humongous ones that you can print too. Ours does not hold something that big, so of course we are doing this. So I'm gonna click continue. And so I've got the cord hooked up to the machine, which our Cricut machine is a Cricut Explore Air 2. So then it shows me on the screen, it's set to cardstock. It wants the blade, which is always stuck in the Cricut machine. You can also put a pen in there. You can put a little thing that does embossing. You can change the tools out, but for this one, we just need the pen, or the cutter, sorry. So I'm gonna put this in there and press the button. So it'll take the mat in. It's gonna do its thing. And then the little light's gonna flash that it wants me to click it to cut. So I'm gonna click to cut it, and it's gonna start cutting it. So on the screen, it just is gonna show the progress, and it takes a few minutes. Then I'm gonna pull it off once it's done. So we're gonna need our little handy grabber thing to get it off once it's out. Once it cuts it. And because this one's so big, it's only going to cut one on that piece of paper. So while it's cutting it, let's talk about what you're going to do with the other one. So once it comes out, and the string really likes it, once it comes out, it's going to look like this, or look like the sunflower. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to figure out how big your contact paper has to be. If you picked up a kit from the library, I pre-measured it for you, and you need 2 pieces, because you need one piece that you're going to stick this onto so that the tissue paper sticks to it, and then you're going to need another piece that you lay over the top to seal it all in there. So I'm going to see if this piece of contact paper I have right here is big enough. I ended up with kind of the little last weird end pieces of the contact paper, so we might have to do some creative contact papering with maybe 2 or 3 pieces. We'll see how big this is. So I'm just going to look on here and see if it's big enough. This one's the end, so it's kind of crinkly. But it looks like this piece is going to be big enough to lay down the outline. So I'm going to save this one because I for sure want this one. Then I want one that's going to go over the top. That's going to have to be about the same size. You want it to be slightly bigger than your cutout because you want to create a seal around the edge. It's kind of like old school laminating. So you want to make sure that it's not touching right against it. And this one looks like it's going to be big enough too. So I have 2 pieces that are definitely big enough for me to use. And we're at 70% on our cutting for our sunflower, so it's almost done. So I've got this, I've got my contact paper, and then I've got my tissue paper. So I think for my flower, I'm probably going to do green out here on the leaves because I think that would look good. And then my flower itself, I could do the blue, which has the little speckly things in it. That might look pretty. Or if I did the pink and the green would kind of go together. So either color for the middle would probably work out okay for this. So I'm going to put them both to the side. We're almost done cutting. The Cricut machine's kind of cool because it seems like it cuts the inner pieces. So like on this one, it cut out like these pieces first and the little leaf pieces, and then it kind of goes around and finishes it off. So it's ready. So we're gonna eject it with our little button. So I don't know if you guys can see this on the map, but it's the paper's on there, and then you can see it's got the outline that's on there. So what you do is you use your tool to sort of lift it up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lift it up, and it's going to pull off the big piece of paper first, like this. And then I'm going to lift up on the edge to get the outline of the flower off, which is the part that I want. Now the parts that are left over, if you are doing this at home and you have a use for them, you can use them. So this is what the outline looks like. So here was the hibiscus and here's the sunflower next to each other. So you can see each of them kind of have the little innards cut out. So then what happens is you end up with all these little pieces that actually look really pretty that are inside. So if you have a use for these and you're doing this at home on your machine, or you're coming to the library to use it, you can keep these and use them for cards. You might be able to just figure out some kind of design you could use this for that might be pretty. So I'm going to put this to the side because I'm not going to use these, but I'm going to pull them off later because that takes a little bit more time. So then we've got our outline. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your contact paper, and I'm going to lay it out so that the sticky side, which should be, let's see, this side, maybe if I can get it off. Maybe not if I can't get it off. There we go. Okay, so you got to get like under there and separate them. So the sticky side is this side here. So I'm going to kind of unfurl some of it. And once it's not attached to the paper that's just kind of crinkly, it should lay a little bit flatter for you. So I'm going to pull the paper down just slightly like this so that I have some of it showing. This is the hardest part of the whole project, is trying to get this off because it's such a pain in the butt. Okay. And then I'm going to lay it down like this. I'm going to sort of pull off about half of it like this. And then I'm going to stick, should lay flat like that. I'm going to start sticking my outline down. You really only get one chance at doing this, you guys. So you got to kind of be careful. Luckily, we have a backup if I mess it up, but it should be okay. I'm going to lay it down like this so that it's got room around the edges. Then I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to pull the rest of the paper away from the contact paper like that. So in theory, when you press it down, it should be stuck to the contact paper. You want to be careful not to touch the contact paper too much because then your fingerprints will get all over it and then it won't stick. So I'm going to kind of, which I did the first time I did this was a mess. So you might want to have extra contact paper unless you're super expert, which I am not. So that's stuck down. So now the sticky side is facing up and then the outline is on there. So I'm going to get ready to stick my tissue paper down. So same kind of thing, since the whole thing is sticky, you don't want to just like glom it on there because then it's going to get stuck to it and you're not going to be able to get it off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of look. So I want the green for my leaves. I'm going to kind of look at how big the leaves are. And I'm going to try to cut a piece of tissue paper that's going to sort of fit on them. So I'm going to cut like a little square of tissue paper like this. And then I'm going to hold it up to the leaf and see how big it is in comparison. So this piece is probably big enough for 2 leaves. So I'm going to cut it in half. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sort of fold it like this. So you're holding it and you're going to stick it down to the center of your leaf and press it into the contact paper. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim it around the edge so that I don't have excess sticking to the contact paper where I don't want it to stick. I'm gonna turn it around here. So you're just gonna, I can see underneath, because it's tissue paper, I can see through it, and I'm gonna put it right on the edge. And then I'm just gonna trim it off a little bit, like this. Okay, so the top needs to be trimmed a little bit here on this side. So I'm just gonna trim it off, just like that. Okay, so then it's stuck down where I want it to stick. And now that I'm holding it up, I can see that there's a little tiny piece on the front over here that's sticking out that I don't want to stick out. So I'm gonna trim that off, that little tiny piece off. And then I'm gonna do that for the rest of the sun catcher, the whole thing. I'm just gonna stick it down and then I'm gonna trim it. There's also a little piece over here on the corner. So this isn't exact. So then I'm going to do the same thing for the other leaves. I'm going to kind of figure this out. And I think if I sort of trim this maybe a little bit skinnier, I'll have less that I have to trim off. And kind of like the Cricut, the little things left over from the Cricut, you may have leftover tissue paper pieces that you can use for something else. The original example when she did this, hers was a mosaic sun catcher, and so she had little tissue paper squares that she put down. That might be easier, so then you won't have to trim them, but I didn't want to have to cut out a million little tissue paper squares, so I just decided to go with this instead because I thought it would be a little bit easier to control it. So I got to trim a little bit more on this one. And you want to trim it right up to where it's like on the black so that it doesn't show. So then I'm going to press it down again, and the top here is still a little bit long, so I'm going to cut that part off. So same kind of thing. I'm going to kind of look, and I can see that there's a piece here that's sticking out that I'm going to trim. If you get a piece that sticks to your contact paper that's like sticking out over here, don't freak out. It's going to look fine. It'll be fine because it'll all kind of blend in together. If you can get it off, you want to try to get it off. But if you can't get it off, don't panic. It's going to look fine. It's going to look fine. So we'll keep going. So I'm going to turn it so that I'm around to my other leaf. I'm going to cut another little square off so that I can use that. So if you guys are watching on Facebook Live, don't forget you can comment and say hi to us, or if you have a question, you can ask your question. I will post the directions for this on the library's Facebook page, so that if you didn't get a kit or you're doing this at home and you want to know exactly how I did it, I'll post the directions so that you can see them. And then if you guys ever have questions, you can always comment to us on Facebook. You can email me. You could call the library. Or if you're in the library and you say, hey, Maizie, how'd you do that? I'll tell you. Because I try to make it as easy as possible for you guys to be able to do it at home. Now, if you didn't have a Cricut at home, of course, you could still cut out your outline just by cutting it out. Or you might be able to do this with like snowflakes. That'd be kind of fun because you would get the same effect where you just have the outline and then you could fill it in. That might be pretty for the winter time, which right now it is winter. So I'm kind of messing us up by doing this sort of springy project. But I thought it'd be fun because it was super colorful, but the snowflakes might be fun, and then you could hang them on the window in the winter time and get some color, since we don't have any real snowflakes right now, which I have to admit I'm not totally mad about. Okay, so there's my leaves that are stuck down. So I'm going to push them down, make sure it's really stuck down on there. And if you end up where you trim it a little bit short and like there's an empty space, you can either go back and stick down a piece of tissue paper, or you can just leave it like that. And like I said, it'll all kind of blend in. So now for my flower part, since it's a really big piece, I'm going to try to maybe do it in sections. I'm thinking like if I did it to where I could do like the top section, and then maybe the bottom section one piece. That way there's less little tissue paper end kind of pieces that I have to worry about trimming off. That might work out a little bit better for me. So I'm going to cut a big square, and then I'm going to cut it probably in half of my tissue paper, and I'm going to go with the pink. because I like pink. So I'm going to cut off a square. And you also want to make sure, one of the things I did when I was first doing this is I had my tissue paper like way too close to my contact paper, and then I got it stuck and I couldn't get it off. So you just want to be careful because remember, it's very sticky. So this will fit over the whole thing, but I don't want to have a problem with it sticking to the places I don't want. So I'm going to cut it in half and I'm going to stick it down. I'm going to kind of look and see where it needs to go for this bottom half of my flower. Then I'm going to stick it down in the middle there, press it down onto the contact paper where the leaf is, petal. And then I'm just going to trim it. And it's helpful too doing it this way because then it kind of sticks to the leaf parts. So then you can trim it off right where the leaves are. And that should look okay. We'll hold it up and we'll take a look and see what it looks like. Like this. Oh yeah, it looks okay. So I have to trim the bottom part, of course, down here, but it fit in there really good. Fit in there really good. So I'm just going to trim those real quick. Maybe I did the bad thing and I stuck it to the contact paper. So I'm just going to lift it up very carefully. And I'm just going to trim a little sort of like V here in the middle so that it doesn't stick to that part again. And we'll trim it off. Okay, so then I'm going to do the top with my other piece, which again is going to be kind of just trying to figure out the placement of it so it will stick where I want it to stick. So I'm going to flip it over so I can do that a little better. So again, I'm just going to kind of trim a little V shape between the petals to keep it from sticking to that around where the outline is. Well, that's not too bad. And as you go along, like if you did a bunch of these, you'd get really good at this because you'd be able to kind of figure out what shapes you need. And then again, if you used the little squares, of course, you'd have less of an area that would potentially stick to the contact paper. So it would be a little less problematic. You just have to do more cutting, which I didn't really want to do. So we're almost done trimming it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our other piece of contact paper over and seal it down, kind of like I said, like laminating it. And then we can go from there. So I've got a little spot here between the leaves that needs to be cut off there. Then I've got a spot on the top here that needs to be cut off. Then I'm going to lift up, maybe come in over here and cut it off like that, right there. And then come in here and cut it off. Maybe up under there. And then see if I can peel it off. Maybe. There we go. That's peeling off, so that's good. You want to go kind of slow when you're peeling the tissue paper because the slower you go, the less chance you are of ripping it and then getting it stuck to your contact paper. So I'm going to hold it up here to the light so I can see where I need to maybe trim, but I think we're going to be okay. That looks pretty good. There's a little tiny spot down on the bottom I can see, so let me cut that one off and then I think we're good. Doesn't have to be perfect. It can be whatever you want it to be. So we're done with that part. I'm going to turn it back right side up. So now I've got my other piece of contact paper, and what I'm going to do is similar to what I did before. I'm going to start peeling it and I'm going to stick it on to my other contact paper. So I'm just going to peel it down a little bit and then I'm going to start sticking it down from the top. So I'm going to line them up as much as I can close together. And And then I'm gonna slowly peel it back, just the paper part back off of there, and it'll pull it down as we go. You just want to kind of peel it off slowly. You're not really pressing it down yet, you're just getting it on there. So you're just going to peel it off, get it on there, and then that's when you're going to start pressing it down. So you're going to start from the middle and you're going to push it outwards to get it all stuck to each other. And you'll see when I cut it that it's a lot like laminate, where it's gonna form sort of a little seal, and you wanna cut around the seal. So that's what it looks like when it's done. So you can kind of see there's some bubbles out here, but you're gonna cut that part off. So that's not gonna matter. And then right around the edge, there's a little tiny, I can see it from my side. There's a tiny little sort of bubble looking thing. That's your seal that you're going to cut around. So you're not going to cut right up on it, so that you make sure it stays sealed. If for some reason it does unseal, you could try very carefully to peel the contact paper off. But because it's tissue paper, I don't know. And since this isn't like real laminate, you can't laminate. If something that you laminated comes unlaminated, you can use a towel and an iron and like relaminate it. You can't really do that with this because it's not the same type of plastic. It's not heat resistant. So you want to just be careful and try to get it cut around like you want to the first time. That way, hopefully you don't have any peeling that happens. So I'm just cutting all the way around. So I'm cutting off the pieces I don't need. And then after we cut all the way around, we're going to kind of press on it again to make sure it's sealed down really good all the way around. And then we'll be ready to hang it up. We got one more. Here we go. So I cut all the contact paper off all the way around. I'm going to get rid of it. And then I'm going to kind of press down on here to make sure it's sealed, especially on the edge. So I'm just going to press it down all the way across. So then I'm going to take my hole puncher. I'm going to hole punch a hole right in the top. It's probably as far down as I can get it, because I want to make sure that it's not going to break. So I'm going to punch the hole so that my little hole's in the top there, and then I'm going to string it up and we'll be able to see what it looks like. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the string in half, and you guys have seen me do this a lot to create sort of like this, and then I'm going to tie a knot in the top like that. So it looks like that. So here's the knot, here's the solid end, and then I'm just going to slip it through the hole and then pull it taut like this. So the string is going to kind of set to the side, but I think that's going to be okay. It's going to hold it up. So this is what our little hibiscus one looks like. And this is what our sunflower suncatcher looks like. So you guys, like I said, I'm going to post on Facebook, so check the library's Facebook page for the instructions, and I'll have some pictures of these on there for you too. And if you have any questions, you can always write to us, email, call, anything like that. And if you have ideas, we want to know what you guys want to do for these projects. So send the ideas to me and I'll try to make it happen. So thank you for watching, and we will see you guys next month. Bye.